However, Herbert's biggest mistake was bringing Ian's family into this. This is something that he isn't going to let slide. The lightning grows and grows, and its crackling thunder is drowned out only by Herbert's screams. Sometime later, the Tower Master's crimes are exposed to the Emperor. Emperor Terry sits on his throne, relaying this information to the citizens of the Empire. Herbert was a criminal that had lost sight of what it meant to be a Tower Master and indulged in black magic. That's not all. He also used human souls as sacrifices, and cruelly exploited the lives of innocent citizens and his fellow magicians. This is a grave crime that he can't pay for, even with his death. It is unforgivable, and the Emperor has no intention of showing any form of mercy. From this moment onwards, all of the titles and authority that belong to Herbert will be stripped from him, and he will be executed in public. His name will be forever recorded in the history of the Empire as the worst criminal of all time. And if he has any blood relatives or accomplices still around, Terry vows to find them and grant them this exact same fate. This is an issue he is taking extremely seriously. He will also be conducting an investigation to see if there are any other magicians who have been researching black magic. During this investigation, no preferential treatment will be shown, regardless of someone's status. Even the nobles are expected to cooperate. He understands that there are likely people who assisted Herbert against their free will, likely unaware of what was truly happening. These people will not be punished as harshly, providing they are purified of black magic and return to their original state. However, the same can't be said for high-ranking magician Helene, who attempted to assassinate the Emperor's son, Prince Haydn. Although she was just following Herbert's orders and didn't have control of her own thoughts. The act of trying to take out the heir to the throne is a grave crime that can't be forgiven no matter what. Due to this, Emperor Terry hereby sentences the redhead Helene to an infinite lifetime of imprisonment. Lastly, he can't end this speech without giving thanks to the two heroes that helped to stop this incident. Our protagonist Ian, who was the one that put a stop to Herbert, and the captain of the Knights Oliver, who did an excellent job of protecting Prince Haydn from Helene. As Ian is currently a part of the black magic investigation, he will not be rewarded until after it has finished. Therefore, the Emperor calls for Captain Oliver to step forward. Oliver approaches the throne and lowers his head with his hand on heart. A knight protecting a prince from a fourth-class magician is an impressive feat. The Emperor says that he is a true blessing to the Empire whose actions should be celebrated. He is a role model not just for the Empire, but for knights all over the world. The Emperor won't let Oliver's actions go unrecognized. He rises from his seat and announces to everyone in the room that as of this very moment, Oliver will be given the authority to control all of the knights within the Empire, and bestowed the highest title, Sword Lord. The Sword Lord title is one that hasn't been given to anyone for hundreds of years, mostly because swords have been pushed aside and replaced by magic. However, Oliver has shown the true strength of the sword by defeating the magician Helene, which is why it is so befitting that he receives the title Sword Lord. Prince Haydn watches with a smile on his face as his close friend and protector gets the respect and recognition he deserves. The Emperor removes a regal sword from its sheath. It's rather large and has a golden handle with a red gemstone. He asks Oliver politely to get down on his knees. Oliver follows his orders, and the Emperor prepares to officially christen him with this title. In the name of the first stream of the Emerald River, he commands for the title, Sword Lord, to be placed in front of Oliver's name, and along with it, all the honor that the title comes with. The Emperor touches the sword to the knight's shoulder, and then Oliver looks up, swearing to everyone present that as the new Sword Lord he is willing to give up his entire life to protect the Empire. Later, the Emperor is visited by Prince Ragnar, who isn't happy about the upcoming execution of Tower Master Herbert. He tries to convince his father not to go through with it, claiming that it could cause enormous damage to the Empire. The Tower Master is a great fifth-class magician, and to execute him would be the same as executing tens of thousands of magicians. And that isn't all. If the Tower Master is gone, then all the other empires will find out about this. The Coldwood Empire and the Principality of Ro would be sure to capitalize on their weakness. Since the strongest magician would be dead, Ragnar claims that the Empire would fall into complete disarray. This would be the perfect opportunity for their enemies to attack. Terry turns his head calmly, informing his son that Herbert is not the strongest magician in the Empire. The strongest magician is Ian, who is of 6th class. Soon he will take over the role as Tower Master, and so there won't be any problems. In fact, with the leadership of a 6th class magician, the Ivory Tower may even rise to even greater heights. Ragnar grits his teeth and clenches his fists. With his eyes closed, he tries to hide his anger at the fact that Ian will be the new master, until the Emperor asks if he is wrong, demanding an answer. Ragnar admits he is right. With Ian Page as the master of the Ivory Tower, it will open up a new age. However, Herbert is strong himself and is a magician who possesses tens of years of experience. Ragnar proposes that the Emperor make both Ian and Herbert Tower Masters at the same time. With the two of them together, the Empire will be undefeatable, and will become the strongest in the world in the shortest possible time. Also, if a young capable magician and a magician who is full of experience take charge together, they could keep each other in check. Prince Ragnar tries to convince his father to consider this as a possible option. At first, the Emperor agrees that it would make them quite strong. However, the Tower Master has been researching black magic, sacrificing innocent lives of commoners and magicians in the process. His actions were way too far, and Herbert is undoubtedly crazy. He did all these terrible things all in the pursuit of power. Ragnar's fist clenches tighter as he struggles to come up with any way he can possibly defend Herbert's actions. While Herbert's methods were wrong, Ragnar claims that black magic could become a strong weapon for the Empire. He suggests that instead of using innocent lives, they instead just sacrifice criminals. That way they can use black magic to their advantage. The Emperor seethes with rage, unable to believe his son would come up with such a vile idea. This is exactly why he chose Prince Haydn to be the heir instead of Ragnar. Black magic is an absolute evil that corrupts one's soul and disrupts the order of the world. The Emperor knows that Ragnar has a lot of good qualities. He's bright, smart, and has an ambitious personality. However, he tells his son that he lacks one very important thing that is needed to become a good leader. He walks past Ragnar with a face of disgust, saying that he doesn't have a good heart. In order for someone to be a good emperor, they need a heart that is willing to fight for the common people. For a moment, Ragnar seems devastated at his father's words, but not long later he begins laughing and calling his father a liar. The real reason he isn't the heir to the throne isn't because of his heart, but for another reason. Prince Haydn was the child of the Emperor, and his one true love, so he is his favorite son. While on the other hand, Ragnar was a child that the Emperor had with a concubine. He has always been an afterthought. That's the real reason why Ragnar isn't going to be emperor in the future. Terry is gobsmacked at the words that just came out of his son's mouth. However, Ragnar continues. Ever since he was a child, he was always treated differently. Like he wasn't even a part of the family. All he ever wanted was for his father to look at him the same way he looked at Prince Haydn. Ragnar bets that if it was Prince Haydn here right now, asking for Herbert to be set free, then it would be done, no questions asked. The Emperor raises his hand and slaps him across the face. He then walks away, calling Ragnar a fool to even suggest something like that. Ragnar is left standing all alone with a red face, knowing deep down that what he said is the truth. When the Emperor exits the room, he turns to one of the knights, asking him to keep a close eye on Ragnar over the next few days, making sure he doesn't leave or come into contact with anyone. The knight, whose name is Damphel, nods his head to signal that he understands these orders. The Emperor has grounded Prince Ragnar, so that he can be punished for his words, and so that he doesn't try and rescue the old man Herbert. He spends a while trapped inside his room until someone knocks at his door asking if they can enter. It's Ian, who says he is here for an urgent matter. The Emperor has tasked him with testing people to see if they are under the influence of black magic or not. And it is now time for Ragnar to be tested. Ragnar is insulted by his words. Today is the day of Herbert's execution, yet he wants to waste time with this nonsense. Ian informs him that it is a compulsory test and has been taken by all imperial officials and family members. Realizing he doesn't have much of a choice, Ragnar sits down, telling Ian to just get on with it and get out. Ian approaches, warning that it won't take long, but it might leave him feeling nauseous and dizzy for a while. There is nothing to worry about though. Ian waves his staff and chants the words, "Greater Cancellation." A blue circle appears while the spell is being cast. Not long after, Ragnar shivers a little, expressing that he feels awful. This is normal. Luckily, no traces of black magic was found in his body. He just needs to rest and he will feel better in no time. Once he has completed his duties, Ian lowers his head and prepares to leave Ragnar in peace. Ragnar stops him though, calling out with something to ask. He wants to know why Ian serves his brother Prince Haydn. His brother is not suitable for the position of emperor, and many of the nobles have turned their backs on Ian for showing support towards him. Ian turns around saying very little words, just that he doesn't serve Prince Haydn and that he has to leave now. Ragnar stands up in shock, wanting to know what he meant by what he just said, but Ian doesn't answer. He exits the room and closes the door behind him, looking at the ground as if in deep thought. He doesn't serve Haydn, he doesn't serve anyone. In his previous life he was loyal to Prince Ragnar and would have done anything for him. However, after he was betrayed and poisoned, he knows that he cannot become friends with Ragnar in this new life. Ian storms off. He can't get sentimental to how things were before and needs to stay focused on his goal. to get revenge. Nightfall arrives at the Imperial Palace on the day of Herbert's execution. The Night Damsel enters Ragnar's room, informing him that it has happened. The room appears a mess, with furniture tipped over and papers scattered on the floor. Around this afternoon at the execution site in the town square, the old man Herbert was punished for his crimes, and his life came to an end. Ragnar has a look of deep sorrow on his face, as if he has been mourning the loss of someone he was close to. He tells Damsel that he can leave now. The knight approaches and places a piece of paper on a nearby table, saying that Ragnar shouldn't be upset. Without saying anything more, he lowers his head and leaves the room. Curious as to what the paper could be, Ragnar picks it up and unfolds it. It's a letter and he reads it carefully. The words on this paper defeat his sadness, and it is replaced with a hopeful smile. It's unclear what the letter says, but it seems to be good news. The next morning, Ian is having a conversation with the Emperor. The survivors that were trapped inside Herbert's portal have all been rescued and are currently being treated. The large sum of wealth he was hoarding has been put back into the treasury, and almost everyone has been tested for dark magic and nothing else has been discovered. The Emperor is grateful for all the work Ian has done. He didn't expect Herbert to be so crazy. Terry also largely blames himself for not suspecting Herbert of his activities earlier. Ian assures him that even he didn't notice. It's hard to imagine that someone so famous for their integrity could stoop to such lows and hide it all behind a kind face. For now, Ian is going to continue with the investigation of black magic in the Ivory Tower, and Terry is happy to hear it. However, he does have one last question that he would like to ask our protagonist. With his arms crossed, he asks if Ian is in support of Prince Haydn or not. Ian is taken aback by this question, but the Emperor remains quiet, patiently waiting for an answer. Ian isn't going to pledge his allegiance to Prince Haydn, but he is happy to cooperate to ensure that he can succeed to the throne safely, and so that he can become a wise emperor. While scratching his chin, Terry thinks deeply about this answer. Ian isn't going to pledge his allegiance, but he will support the prince. The Emperor decides that this answer is satisfactory. He signals to his assistants to bring in a large box. Inside is Herbert's old staff that they recovered after detaining him. Whoever owns the staff becomes the Tower Master of Ivory Tower. The Emperor wants to give it to Ian. The process of electing a new Ivory Tower Master is not a simple one, and there is still a lot of work to do. There will have to be a formal procedure to make it official. Though in a time like this, Terry doesn't want to leave the Tower Master position empty. Therefore, he is entrusting Ian with this staff. The Emperor gets serious for a moment. He knows his son Ragnar won't give up trying to get the throne, even though most of the people supporting him have collapsed. Terry knows Ragnar's ambition and temper better than anyone else, and if he takes over the throne, there is sure to be a lot of sacrifices and blood. Looking at our protagonist, he asks that he do his best to ensure that this never happens. Ian grabs a hold of the staff from the box and falls to his knees, accepting the orders of His Majesty and becoming the new Tower Master. On this day, the sun sets on the Ivory Tower, and the sky is cast with a red tint. Ian enters his new office that formerly belonged to Herbert but not anymore. The sunset creeps through the large windows, and Ian begins to think about what Herbert said to him in the laboratory. How he used to want to be a hero that could defend the Empire and save people who are lamenting. Now that Ian has all of this new power and authority as Tower Master, all he can think about is how Ragnar betrayed him in his previous life. He doesn't want to become a hero. All he wants is to get his revenge by killing Ragnar. It has to be a death that transcends merely dying, something truly terrible. Meanwhile, Ragnar can be seen still in his room. The sun has set and the moonlight beams through the glass panes of his window. Hunched over with his hands together, it looks like he is in deep thought about something. The next day, Prince Haydn comes to visit Ian, happy that he is the new Ivory Tower Master. Ian tells him to keep his voice down as it hasn't been publicly announced yet, but Haydn doesn't care as it is just the two of them here. He can't believe that the kid who begged him to visit the site of the old Ivory Tower 6 years ago is now the respectable Tower Master. His heart is just full from seeing how much Ian has grown. Ian is very busy today doing black magic tests, so he asks that the prince leave him in peace for a while. Haydn tells him not to be such a wet blanket. He came here to see Ian specifically because he's always too busy to meet up. Plus, Haydn is still feeling dizzy and nauseous from his test the other day, and is wondering if everything is alright with him. Admittedly, Ian did have his suspicions. Since Haydn is heir to the throne, it would have made sense for Herbert to infect him with black magic to make him act like a fool. But no, Haydn is free from black magic, and this is just how he acts normally. The next person to take the black magic test is Princess Harry, which reminds the prince of something. Harry has been asking a lot about Ian lately and seems to be interested in him. She always asks Haydn about how he spends his time. and what kind of foods he likes. However, even though Haydn is close to our protagonist, he doesn't even know the answers to these questions himself. He exits the room, asking Ian to be kind to the princess when she arrives and answer her questions. Even though they are small details, it will make her happy. Ian watches him leave, wondering why the princess could possibly be interested in him. He begins thinking about how much he has grown over these past years. Not just him, but Prince Haydn has grown a lot too. His personality has gotten brighter and he has been working hard. If he receives proper guidance, Ian thinks he might actually be able to become a really wise and respected emperor. This thought is interrupted when Princess Harry enters the room. She has a warm smile on her face and a pink dress. Ian asks her to take a seat so he can begin with the black magic test, and she does as he says. Before the test begins, she casts a silence spell and blue sparkles float around the room. Ian is impressed. This is a second-class spell that soundproofs the surroundings. He's surprised that Harry was able to reach second class while practicing magic secretly. Harry timidly reveals that she is actually a third-class magician now. At least that's what her teacher says. Ian congratulates her and wonders why she cast that silence spell and what she wants to talk about. The princess wants to know what she should do from now on. She is lost and needs guidance. Confused about what she means, Ian starts to ask questions, asking why she has been hiding the fact that she is a magician. Harry reveals that it is because of her father, the Emperor. When she was 12, she was tested for a mana heart and mana brain by the magician Kevin. After finding out that she possessed the qualities of a magician, instead of informing the Ivory Tower, he went straight to the Emperor. Being a magician means that one has to give up their position and status to become a part of the Ivory Tower, even if they are a part of the imperial family. The Emperor didn't want Harry to become a member of the Ivory Tower, and wanted her to remain in the imperial family, so he ordered her and the magician Kevin to keep quiet about her powers. However, one day Harry realized that there is a desire for magic inside of her that she can't get rid of, so she started to practice it secretly with the magician Kevin. At first she just wanted to be of help to her brother Haydn, as at the time no one was in support of his claim to the throne. Though now things are different. Haydn has Ian for support, as well as the captain of the knights and newly appointed Sword Lord Oliver. Now that Haydn is on the right track, Harry doesn't have any goals anymore. She is even worried that her hidden powers might somehow get in the way of her brother's future. Ian understands and lowers himself in front of the princess. He advises her to live her own life and not worry so much about others. That's all she needs to do. She shouldn't live for the imperial family or Prince Haydn's sake, but instead should live for herself. Harry embarrassingly looks down to the floor. She has spent her whole life pleasing others and has no idea how to do that. Ian assures her that no one is born with all the answers to life. If you follow the values and goals of others, then your life will become someone else's and not your own. And if you live like that for a long enough time, you will lose yourself. You'll wander aimlessly in remorse and emptiness. For a moment, Ian thinks about his previous life where he did just that. Aimlessly followed the orders of Ragnar and was left with nothing but remorse. He hopes that Princess Harry will make the right choice for herself and will make her own decisions moving forward. This will help her to live the life she wants. After such an amazing speech, Harry looks at our protagonist with wide eyes. She asks him if he has found the life that he wants. This makes Ian stumble and stutter. Perhaps he was being too forward giving life advice when he isn't fully in control of his own. This is not what the princess meant. Actually, Ian is the first person to ever give her advice like this. She's always been so pressured with her duties as a princess and couldn't even imagine having another life. Yet Ian has given her the courage to consider other options and to follow her heart, and for this she is grateful. Ian encourages her to continue studying magic. No matter what path she takes in the future, it will be of great help, and she has already improved so quickly by reaching third class. Harry plays with her dress and blushes. This is actually the main reason she has come here today. She wants to know if Ian can teach her any magic. This surprises Ian as he thought that the magician Kevin was already her teacher. But apparently there is nothing more that Kevin can teach the princess. Harry puts her hands together and starts to beg. She wants to continue to grow and wants to learn from our protagonist. Ian doesn't know what to do. He knows the princess has a knack for magic, as the third class is not something one can reach without a natural talent. Very few people know that the princess has the qualities of a magician, and if she grows up to be a high-ranking magician, it could be of great help later on. He decides that he will do it. However, only under one condition. He is probably going to need her help in the future and asks that she gives it when the time comes. Without hesitating, Harry accepts. Ian is doing her a great favor by teaching her, and she is willing to do any favor he wants in return. She doesn't even know what he will be asking for, but she doesn't care. With a smile on her face, she says that she trusts Ian. This statement makes Ian speechless and he blushes a little bit. He changes the subject and moves on with the black magic inspection that he needs to do. It doesn't take long for it to be over. There is nothing to worry about and she isn't under the influence of black magic, though she may feel dizzy for a while, so Ian recommends she stands up slowly. The princess stumbles and falls into Ian's arms. He asks if she is okay. He can call for a servant if she is having trouble walking. Harry insists she is fine and awkwardly scurries away with a red face. Ian stops her before she leaves and begins telling her about himself. When he's not working in the ivory tower, he usually reads books in his mansion or does research in his lab. Recently, he has become interested in alchemy because of Douglas, who lives with him. He's not too picky about food, though he can't handle spicy food well. Princess Harry is baffled, wondering why he has suddenly blurted out all of these things. Ian reveals that Haydn told him she was asking all these things about his life. This makes Harry gasp, embarrassed that her brother would say something like that. She lifts her dress so she doesn't trip and runs out of the room as fast as she can, too shy to even look Ian in the eyes. When she slams the door shut, Ian is left standing there with a confused expression, wondering if he did something wrong. After all, he just answered her questions. The news of the incident with the former Tower Master Herbert spread quickly within the Empire, and caused a great uproar among the citizens. In response to this, the Emperor personally took command of all black magic investigations and heightened the Empire's alert level. Ian was placed as the new master of the Ivory Tower and completed a thorough investigation of all matters related to black magic, appeasing the anger of the citizens. Herbert was executed for his crimes and was recorded as the worst criminal in the history of the Empire. Due to this, many of the nobles turned their back on Prince Ragnar because of the close relationship they shared. And instead the nobles flocked around Ian, paying special attention to what his next actions will be as the new Ivory Tower Master. One day Ian is sitting in his mansion enjoying a morning cup of tea, when he receives a bunch of invitations to banquets and parties that people are throwing to celebrate his success. He's not even going to bother to read them. The black magic incident still hasn't settled down yet. People are acting so carefree. The alchemist Letio begins to pick up the letters, encouraging Ian to read some of them. One of them is a marriage proposal. Someone known as Count Jurer would like Ian to get engaged to his oldest daughter, who just turned 12 years old this year. Ian spits out his tea at the craziness he just heard. Things like this are to be expected though. Ian is now an adult and it's not weird for people to start talking about marriage matters. As the youngest high-ranking magician and the Ivory Tower Master, there is sure to be many more offers from eligible nobles. Ian holds his head. These nobles are really just using him to try and fight for political power. He can't believe someone would suggest he marry a 12-year-old. He must be out of his mind. Letio agrees. Finding a marriage partner is something that should come naturally after all. Since Ian is probably busy with the black magic investigation, Letio offers to handle all of the invitations for him. Ian is thankful, not only for all the help Letio has been doing around the mansion, but also for protecting his mother the night they were attacked. Letio shrugs off the thanks. It was actually the Mana Trap security system that did most of the work. Plus, Letio already promised a long time ago to protect Ian's mother, so there is no need to say anything more on the matter. In that case, Ian would like to ask him an important question. He wants to know who the magician was that injected mana into Letio's body all the way back in part 1. The one that caused him to get mana poisoning. If he can tell Ian anything about the person, like a name or their appearance, Ian promises to track that person down and punish them accordingly. Letio awkwardly scratches his cheek. It turns out he doesn't remember who the magician was. It was something that happened in the dark of the night, and there were numerous magicians who hated him. When he was young, he made a living as an alchemist in the capital, where he came into contact with a lot of magicians, so it could have been anyone. Letio smiles, remembering that after getting mana poisoning he actually developed a deep hatred and resentment towards magicians. However, after being saved by Ian when his village was attacked by bandits, it changed his views. Now that he is no longer dying from his condition, he has forgotten all of his hate and resentment, so it doesn't matter to him anymore. Ian rises from his seat and gets sentimental. He never saw his father's face as he left before he was even born. No one knew if he was even dead or alive. But after meeting and living with Letio, Ian now knows what it's like to have a father around. Letio almost breaks into tears from this comment. To think Ian really sees him as a father figure. With Letio around, Ian understands why Douglas is always so cheerful and positive, as well as why his mother was able to become healthier. In the future, the amount of time Ian is going to have to spend apart from his mother will increase. Ian kindly asks that Letio keeps taking care of his mother while he is away. With a wide smile and rosy cheeks, Letio says that of course he will do that. Ian stands with his arms crossed as if waiting for something to happen. It should be about time. Suddenly Douglas bursts into the room, startling his father. In his hands is an elixir that he has finally completed after working on it for so long. It's a mana poisoning cure made from reindeer's flour. Letio is surprised to hear they actually have a cure for his condition. Ian explains that as he is now the tower master, he was able to look through the restricted sections in the library. In the library he was able to find a method he could use to safely harvest the flour without it withering. It involved using a high-rank magic that allows one to stop the flow of time for an object. Bursting into tears, Letio hugs his son tightly, thanking both him and Ian for their help. Ian watches the wholesome family moment, knowing that he has cured Letio's condition like he promised he would many years ago. Douglas turns to our protagonist with tears streaming down his cheeks. After helping his father, Douglas has decided to become an alchemist who specializes in treating incurable illnesses. That way no one can suffer in the way his father did. That night, Prince Ragnar is in his room when he notices something shocking. In front of him is an exact replica of his body, a perfect clone. The letter he received from Damphel said that someone was going to be sent to his room, but he had no idea it would be this. Ragnar circles his other body, wondering what they are supposed to do now. Outside are a bunch of magicians guarding the door. There's no way he is going to get past them without disguising himself. His clone begins speaking, telling him not to worry. Someone named the cult leader is going to help them, and they are a far more powerful magician than even our protagonist. He will find out more details when he meets with the cult leader in person. His clone holds a red book in his hands and summons a portal from it. The clone tells Ragnar to enter inside. It's a portal that leads out of the city. When Ragnar peers inside, he sees a familiar face. It's Damphel, his personal knight that is usually standing outside his door keeping watch. Ragnar trusts him and follows him inside. When they come out the other side, they arrive in a dense forest. Ragnar is confused as to how Damphel was able to use magic like that. Damphel tells him not to be surprised about it. He played a great role in helping Tower Master Herbert rise into power. However, despite receiving tremendous power, Herbert only sought after the advancement of his own position. It was only a matter of time before someone like him was purged anyway. He urges the prince to follow him as they have a lot of work to do. The world is a wide place. The world can be thought of as a place that only belongs to a few chosen people. Damphel explains that Ragnar is one of these chosen people. Not even the Emperor has been chosen. Ragnar has no idea what he means when he says chosen. Sweat drips down his cheek as he tries to make sense of the situation. The cult leader thinks that Ragnar is the perfect fit for the position of Emperor, the perfect ruler who will exterminate the ignorant commoners and old truths of the world, and bring about and spread the new truths of the world. The cult leader has been waiting for this moment to come for a long time. Ragnar still doesn't know what this crazy nonsense is about. Damphel keeps bringing up someone known as the cult leader. It seems like there's another human who is even stronger than Herbert and Ian in this world. Ragnar has heard that there exists a cult which doesn't follow the Empire's religion. Whoever this cult leader is, it's clear that he wants to change how the Empire operates, and they intend on using Ragnar as a tool to make that happen since he is of royal blood. The prince thinks deeply about things while following Damphel. This could be an opportunity for him. In his current situation, Ragnar needs to grab onto any opportunity even if it's not a good one so that he can grow his forces. The two complete their trek through the forest and reach a tall Gothic building with sharp pointed rooftops in dark gray stone. They enter inside and its interior is covered in the same cold brick, lit up by candlelight in various chandeliers. This castle is where the Dragonians used to live, the true descendants of the dragons. 300 years ago, this place was erased from the earth during a battle between the Dragonians and the Ivory Tower. It was sealed up and locked away using barrier magic. It hasn't been long since that magic has deteriorated, and in turn many humans have discovered this place. At this point Ragnar starts to get more nervous, demanding to know why he has been brought to this place. In front of him stand a bunch of people in red cloaks. They all lower their hands and show respect to Prince Ragnar. He recognizes many of their familiar faces. They are nobles from the Empire. Since this is an important moment where the new world begins, Damphel has only gathered the top-ranking members of the Empire that he can trust. He tells Ragnar not to worry and not to ask too many questions. He will find out all of his answers soon. He gestures towards a large gray door. The cult leader is waiting inside and is expecting Ragnar. It doesn't take long for the doors to swing open and Ragnar anxiously steps inside with his fists clenched, hoping to finally discover what this is about and who this infamous cult leader is. Inside the room stands a blonde man with dragon-like wings. He is in the center of a big circle surrounded by flames. Getting a closer look, he has clear skin and long hair. with a black robe that shows his bare chest. All of the people in red cloaks fall to their knees and begin praising this guy, the last descendant of the dragons. Ragnar doesn't know what to make of things. All he knows is that he is clearly standing in front of someone of great power. He copies the others and falls to his knees. The man with wings introduces himself as Avantis, the last Dragonian left on this land. It's true that the Dragonian race was exterminated by humans in a war 300 years ago. All Dragonians were exterminated except for one, Avantis, the leader of the Ivory Tower at the time. Mitchell Greenriver casted a strong sealing spell on Avantis and trapped him inside this circle, making it impossible for him to step outside of it. Mitchell Greenriver was a member of the Imperial family, and so Prince Ragnar shares his blood. Using this blood, Avantis plans on finally escaping from his prison where he has been trapped the past 300 years. Ragnar wonders why this guy hasn't just killed him and taken his blood then. Why is he suggesting making a deal? Avantis chuckles. Just killing Ragnar would be barbaric. He thinks it would be much more beneficial for the two of them if he made Ragnar into the Emperor. He's going to destroy the old truths in this world and propagate new truths instead, making a peaceful world where Dragonians can coexist with humans. Ragnar rises from the floor, finally understanding everything. Avantis plans on using him as a tool to get what he wants. And if Ragnar refuses, he is probably going to be killed right here on the spot, and replaced with the clone that is still in his room back at the Imperial Palace. Avantis assures him that no such thing is going to happen. If he refuses his offer, then he will just erase Ragnar's memories and send him back safely. However, he knows that Ragnar wouldn't refuse an opportunity as good as this. The prince grits his teeth and clenches his fist, asking the Dragonian to promise that he will make him emperor and that he won't betray him. Avantis promises, if Ragnar uses his blood to free him from this prison, he will make him emperor in exchange. Damphel appears behind the prince carrying a small dagger in his hands. Too desperate to lead the empire, Ragnar doesn't even think about his actions. He slices his hand open and drips his blood onto the magic circle that is trapping Avantis. The red stains land on the yellow ring and it begins to react. The magic rises into the air and fades slowly until it disappears completely. Avantis lets out a villainous laugh, showing his two fangs, completely overjoyed that he is about to be free after so much time. He steps out of the circle and magically changes his clothes into a dapper new suit, with a red jacket and black waistcoat. He approaches the prince, seeing that his eyes are filled with fear. Avantis tells him that there is no need to be scared. He isn't going to harm him. In fact, the two might even become good friends. With a smile on his face, he approaches one of the nobles and takes a red cloak from his hands. Avantis puts it on his person and gets ready to take a much-needed walk outside. Ragnar just stands in the same spot he has been in this whole time, thinking deeply about what he has just done. Back in the Imperial Palace, Princess Harry is upset as Ian hasn't contacted her yet. They were supposed to begin their magic training, and Harry begins to worry that he might have forgotten about it. Her assistant thinks that's impossible. Ian is probably just busy with the black magic investigation he has been doing lately. As she says this, a bunch of maids burst into the room calling out to the princess. They rush over, barely able to get their words out. He's here at last. Ian Page is on his way. Harry nervously asks her maids for help. She is still in her robe and needs to change into something more formal. Once she has gotten ready, she prepares herself to leave the room and greet our protagonist. She turns to look at her maids one last time, asking if her hair is okay and if anything she is wearing is out of place. Her maids assure her that she looks her prettiest today. They raise their hands, encouraging her to be confident. Inside the room is Ian, who is wearing some fancy new clothes and sitting at a round table. He stands up when the princess enters and greets her, stating that it has been a long time since they last spoke. He's sorry as he has been a little busy as of late. For a moment, Harry thought he had forgotten. She thanks Ian for coming and comments on how great he looks in formal wear. Ian thinks they should move to a different location that's more appropriate for learning magic. There are too many people watching within the palace, and if someone finds out they are meeting, Ian is worried that rumors might begin to spread. He holds out his hand and asks Harry to grab onto it for a moment. Harry becomes flustered, wanting to know why he wants to hold hands. Ian awkwardly explains that it is just a part of a teleportation spell he is going to use to take them somewhere else. The princess does as he says, and Ian warns her that she may feel a little dizzy. Light begins to shine around them and their surroundings disappear. The regal palace is replaced with lush open grasslands with snowy mountains in the background. Princess Harry can't believe it. This place looks beautiful. These are hills that are just on the outskirts of the capital. It's a place that people don't visit often. Ian's teleportation magic doesn't have a long range, so this is the best he could do. It's a wide open area, so it will be perfect for learning magic. The princess looks out into the distance as if lost in a trance. She has never been outside the palace before. This is something that has only been possible in her dreams so far. Yet simply by holding on to Ian's hands, all her dreams became reality within an instant. She turns to look at Ian with a face filled with joy, saying that magic truly is an amazing thing. Ian looks back at her and for a moment remembers what she was like in his previous life. She was always stuck in the palace and lonely. When Prince Haydn eventually died, she ended up taking her own life with no reason to keep going on. Now here she is in this life outside and having fun, secretly practicing magic and living her own life. Ian stares while the sunlight glows in her eyes and the wind blows through her hair. He says that magic is amazing indeed. Ian remembers when he first saw Harry secretly practicing magic many years ago. He was exploring the palace and entered the imperial family's sanctum. He then hid in a corner when she arrived and spied on her for a moment. Harry is surprised to hear he was there that day. After all, there should have been guards stopping people from entering that place. Ian admits that he snuck past them. He was young and full of curiosity. The princess understands. When she was young, she would explore the restricted areas in the palace with her brother Haydn too. She promises to keep his secret that he was inside the imperial family's sanctum, since he is keeping her secret that she is practicing magic. Bringing up Prince Haydn reminds her that he is going to be hosting a banquet for his birthday. She asks if Ian will be attending. Ian admits he has received an invitation, but it isn't something he intends on going to. Prince Haydn's birthday banquet is an event only those of noble status will attend. While Ian is currently the Ivory Tower Master, he was still born a commoner, so the nobles will definitely make a fuss if he attends. There are still some people in the Ivory Tower who remain loyal to Herbert and Ragnar. Ian believes it would be best if he focuses on his duties as the new Tower Master, at least until Prince Haydn wins over the favor of the remaining nobles. Harry understands, if Ian is fulfilling his role as Tower Master, then she will be sure to fulfill her role as princess too. She vows to ensure that all the nobles that are still against Prince Haydn won't be able to make any moves. And she is also going to work hard on studying her magic. She turns to Ian, asking him to take good care of her while she learns, and also asking if she can call him teacher while they are together. Ian is happy to see that Harry has her own goals and aims. He says she is free to call him whatever she wants. Back in the Imperial Palace, the Dragonian and Ragnar are discussing their plan going forward. The two main people that could cause problems for them is our protagonist Ian, and the current heir to the throne, Prince Haydn. Ragnar thinks it would be best to deal with Prince Haydn first. While Ian has exceptional magic abilities, he's still just a young magician that only recently became an adult. Because he's lacking experience and was born a commoner, he doesn't have much influence within the political realm. Plus, there are already quite a lot of nobles who are unhappy with the fact he's the Ivory Tower Master. If they handle Prince Haydn first, Ian should be easy to take out. Damphel suggests that they use a puppet to execute these plans so they don't get caught. He knows just the right person who is suitable for this role and asks for the prince's permission to handle it. Ragnar knows he is right and that they need a puppet. He entrusts the recruitment of this puppet to Damphel and allows him to leave the room. When all the nobles exit, it is just Ragnar and Evantus. Ragnar has a question for him. With Evantus's power, he could easily take over the empire on his own. Ragnar wants to know why he is using him instead. Evantus reveals that there is someone he needs to find first. The last ancestor that remained in this land. The dragon that controls time, known as the Gold Dragon. He's someone the Dragonian race have been looking for forever. Ragnar thinks that dragons are just imaginary creatures that exist within myths and legends. While that's what most humans in this age think, Evantus is confident that dragons existed and that they still do. It's hard to find them because they live in places that can't be reached. However, if a great chaos descends upon the land, then the Gold Dragon will definitely show himself. And by great chaos he means war. 300 years ago, the Dragonians started the war against the humans in hopes of drawing the Gold Dragon out. Unfortunately, when the dragon came, he said that the Dragonians were not the true descendants of the dragons. And so the Gold Dragon fought alongside the humans instead. Ragnar is confused. All the records state that Mitchell Greenriver wiped out the Dragonians using magic he developed alone. And there is no mention of dragons whatsoever. Evantus explains that when the Gold Dragon leaves, he erases all his involvement and disappears without a trace. It's as if he doesn't exist in the world. There's no way Mitchell was able to wipe out the Dragonian army without the help of something much greater. Evantus is a true Dragonian, with blood of the dragon. He can sense that the Gold Dragon still exists despite there being no records of him. The reason he wants Ragnar to be emperor is so that he can start a bunch of wars. This isn't a bad thing for Ragnar though, as in the end all the empires in the continent will be united and he will appear like a hero. There is just one more thing the prince wants to know. What does Avantis plan on doing with the gold dragon once he finds it? Avantis doesn't answer and gets ready to leave. He feels like they have been talking for too long. He tells Prince Ragnar to rest assured. He will follow along with their deal and in no time he will be emperor. The next day Paul, the vice captain of the Second Imperial Knight Order, is asked to go and meet with Damphil. He is surprised at this request but heads over there right away to see what this is all about. Damphil allows him to enter and begins asking Paul questions about Prince Haydn and his knights. He had received reports that their security has been tightened due to the recent incident involving black magic. He asks if everything has been alright so far. Paul informs him that there are no issues at the moment. The knights have increased their alert and security around Prince Haydn is tighter now more than ever. Damphil says that he is happy to hear that. Prince Haydn is the future emperor, and his safety is of utmost importance. Damphil begins to approach Vice Captain Paul. Based on rumors he has heard, Paul's swordsmanship is the second strongest in the Empire, next to Captain Oliver the Sword Lord. He compliments Paul. He must be truly talented to be recognized in such a way by the public. Paul blushes. He may be talented, but there is still a lot of ways in which he is lacking. Damphil gets closer and more serious. He remembers when Captain Oliver first recommended Paul to be promoted to vice captain. He thought he was crazy as Paul was an orphan and a commoner. He had no idea why he would choose someone from such a background to be a part of the Knight Order that is supposed to protect the Emperor. He couldn't believe that Oliver would let some random commoner into the noble and prestigious Imperial Knight Order. It's something that he couldn't bear to see. Paul begins to sweat, wondering where Damphil could be going with this. So far he has just insulted him. Damphil takes a step back and Avantis appears behind him as if out of nowhere. Paul immediately reaches for his sword, demanding to know who Avantis is and how he got into the room. However, the Dragonian casts a spell that makes it so the vice captain can't move. He tries as hard as he can, but it's no use. Damphil looks in his direction with a sinister stare. Paul may have been born a commoner, but now he is going to become a part of an even greater empire. The scene cuts to Prince Haydn and the Sword Lord Oliver, who are dueling together. Oliver is instructing the prince, giving him directions on maintaining his posture and balance. In the end, the duel is finished when Oliver knocks the sword out of Haydn's hands. Haydn falls to the floor from exhaustion, feeling disappointed in himself. Maybe he just isn't cut out for learning swords. Oliver doesn't think that that is true, stating that the prince is definitely better than most people, and that he is even improving faster than Ian. While no one can match up to Ian in magic, he had no talent for swords until Oliver taught him. Haydn bursts into laughter, unable to believe that there is something that the perfect Ian is bad at. This motivates him to keep training even harder from now on. Hopefully one day he may even be better with a sword than Ian. While he is talking with Oliver, he looks out in front of him and sees the Vice Captain Paul standing beneath some trees. His expression is vacant and he appears motionless. Haydn asks Oliver if everything is okay. Paul has been talking much less lately and seems down. This is something that Oliver has noticed too. He has asked Paul about it, but he just said that everything's alright. The two look over at the vice captain with eyes of concern. Clearly everything is not alright. They decide that they are going to keep an eye on him for a while. Bro has really just been standing under a tree all this time doing nothing. It's the day of Prince Haydn's birthday banquet and the sun shines on the Imperial Palace. Inside, the butlers and maids are making sure everything is prepared and ready. The Sword Lord Oliver goes over to fetch the prince. His banquet is about to start. Haydn says he will be right there, though he is a little nervous because our protagonist Ian isn't going to be there to help him with the nobles. Oliver reminds him he should be confident and proud. He is the main character of today's banquet. The nobles should be the ones who are nervous, not him. The prince cheers up. He might not have Ian by his side, but at least he has the Sword Lord. At this moment, Princess Harry enters the room, wearing a long blue dress with white gloves. She put a lot of effort into her outfit since it is her elder brother's birthday. Haydn comments on how beautiful she looks. It's a pity that Ian couldn't attend. He would have been speechless at how pretty she looks. Harry blushes at the mention of our protagonist. She embarrassingly asks that Haydn stop saying stuff like that. She also can't believe the prince told Ian all about the questions she had asked about him. How could he do something like that? Does he know how embarrassed she was? Realizing she is scolding her brother on his birthday, she calms down and takes a deep breath, wishing him a happy birthday. She is so proud of her hard-working brother. Any nobles that dare to say anything bad about him she vows to crush, so he shouldn't worry. Prince Haydn thanks her and offers his arm out. It's time they head into the banquet. Everyone is probably waiting. The siblings step into the room, both dressed like $1,000,000. I could probably pay off my student loans with a single button from their clothes. Everyone in the room lowers their heads in respect. and the band plays a slow song on their instruments. As soon as they enter, it doesn't take long for them to start conversing with the nobles, accepting birthday wishes and giving thanks. Oliver is standing off in the corner watching closely, happy that his good friend is handling himself well. This is when Haydn's father, Emperor Terry, enters the banquet, wearing a black and red uniform with a blue cloak. All the nobles turn around in shock, covering their mouths and gasping in unison. Haydn is also shocked. He wasn't aware that his father would be attending. Of course he would attend the prince's banquet. It's his duty as a father to celebrate his son's birthday and growth. He is proud of how far Haydn has come. Haydn is speechless at this statement. The emperor joins him at the front of the room and starts giving a speech to everyone present. So many people have gathered here to celebrate the prince's birthday despite recent events in the kingdom. Looking at this scene right now makes Terry's heart both extremely happy and satisfied. For a parent, the growth of their child is both a miracle and a series of surprises. To see a small and tender child grow up into a decent adult is such an amazing and commendable thing to see. The emperor recalls an old memory from when Haydn was 6 years old. He was taking a walk one day and noticed that the prince was following his every step. When he asked Haydn why he was following, he told him it was because he had made a path. The grass was tall, so it was hard for a child to go out on his own. However, by following his father's footsteps, Haydn was able to make it through. It's been a long time since that day, yet the prince has still followed the emperor all this time. Due to this, Terry knows that his son is going to do well in the future. He raises a glass into the air, toasting the future of the empire and the future emperor, Prince Haydn. The nobles in the room follow his lead, also raising their glasses and giving their blessings. It's a wholesome moment, and Terry takes a sip from the glass while wishing his son a happy birthday. Haydn doesn't know what to say. He thanks his father for the kind words. Suddenly the emperor goes weak and his glass drops to the floor. He coughs up blood and stains the carpet with various fluids. This is serious, but Haydn doesn't know what to do, standing there with his mouth open like a statue. The nobles have a similar reaction, and so does his daughter Princess Harry. It's the Sword Lord Oliver who takes action, rushing over to see if His Majesty is okay and what is wrong. But Terry is in bad shape and is continuing to cough up blood while on his knees. Haydn's glass falls from his hand at the sight of his father's condition. The bright sunny day turns to a bleak cloudy evening. Prince Ragnar is sitting alone in his room staring into nothingness as if in deep thought. A knock can be heard at his door. It's Oliver who is requesting to speak with him. Ragnar stands up, allowing him to enter. He wants to know how his father is doing. He was able to survive because of the immediate action, but he is still in a critical condition. All the imperial doctors and alchemists are working on his treatment. Ragnar raises his voice. What about the criminal that tried to kill his father? Who was it that poisoned his drink at the banquet? Oliver lowers his head shamefully. The person that poisoned the drink was arrested at the scene and has confessed to their sins. Ragnar grabs a hold of him, shaking forcefully. Who is it? What is their name? Oliver seems reluctant to reveal this information to Prince Ragnar, almost as if he is embarrassed. This is because the person who tried to assassinate the Emperor is his good friend and the Vice Commander of the 2nd Imperial Knights, Paul. A very important meeting is taking place discussing the situation. Paul pledged loyalty to the Imperial family for years, vowing to guard the Emperor. How could they let someone like this into the Knights? There's no way he did this all by himself. There has to be someone else involved. A man points at a map on the table. Vice Captain Paul was an orphan from the northern frontier. This is really close to the Coldwood Empire. If you think about it, it's suspicious. An orphan showing up with very little reputation and background but excellent swordsmanship. It's possible Paul is a highly trained spy from the Coldwood Empire. The men in the room bicker amongst themselves, all with their own theories about the reasoning behind this attack. This is what happens when you allow people into the Knights without investigating their origins and identities. They all agree that they should disband the 2nd Imperial Knights and deprive them of their knighthood. And the Vice Captain Paul will receive extreme punishment for attempting to poison the Emperor. Our protagonist Ian is at this meeting, though he is strangely quiet. He knows something weird is going on and that Paul would never do something like that. He leaves the meeting and begins walking away into a nearby forest, where he meets with a figure wearing a cloak. It's Oliver, who is curious as to what is happening with Paul. Ian explains to him that everyone thinks he is a spy from the Coldwood Empire. This is nonsense. Oliver knows that there is no way Paul is a spy. Ian believes so as well. He knows what kind of person Paul is. If it were for the sake of the royal family, he was willing to lay down his own life. He was a knight who knows honor and is someone who respects the monarchy. None of this makes sense. However, a date for Paul's execution has been confirmed. and there is no justification for attempting to assassinate the Emperor. Despite vigorous interrogation, Paul has remained silent, not explaining why he did what he did. That's something that the two of them are going to have to find out themselves. Ian asks how the Emperor is doing. Oliver admits that he isn't doing so good. He hasn't been eating nor drinking and is refusing to let people visit his chamber. He seems to be blaming himself for the incident. The rest of the 2nd Division Imperial Knights are all on guard and are due to be interrogated soon to find out more. As the head of the Knights, Oliver knows he won't be able to move recklessly when it comes to this matter. There are going to be a lot of eyes watching him. Therefore, he begs for Ian's help, asking him to get to the bottom of this for him and prove Paul's innocence. He may not be innocent though. Magic was used when Paul confessed to his sins and no lies were detected. Ian is going to infiltrate the prison where he is being kept tonight to go and see Paul in person. Hopefully he can find out some answers. Afterwards, he'll go straight to Oliver's house to fill him in. Oliver understands the plan in the two part ways. They exit their discreet meeting place in the forest. The daylight darkens as the night sky prepares to blossom. The bleak clouds part and downpours rain on the Empire's prison. Of course the guard is sleeping on the floor, because why wouldn't he be? Ian walks right by him and approaches the prison cell where Vice Captain Paul is being kept. He looks terrible, shirtless and chained to the wall, covered in cuts and bruises likely from interrogation. Ian enters and asks if Paul recognizes him. He doesn't believe that Paul was the one who tried to assassinate the Emperor. He knows he isn't an enemy or spy of the Empire. He knows this better than anyone else due to his past life. Paul is loyal and would go as far as sacrificing his own life to protect the crown. Ian doesn't understand why he had to do this. He places his hand on Paul's head and begins using his magic. He is going to be entering his memories now and apologizes for invading his privacy. Inside Paul's head, Ian sees everything that happened the day he got infected with black magic. How he went to visit Damphel and the dragon Ian Avantis appeared out of nowhere. Before he could do anything, it was too late and the black magic had taken over his body. Ian can't believe it. He was being manipulated by black magic this whole time. At this point, a projection of Paul appears, wearing his knight uniform and without his bruises. He admits he was too naive. He knew the Imperial family has a lot of enemies and black magic was around. He shouldn't have let his guard down like that. Paul is also happy that Ian is here. He knew he wouldn't give up on him. Ian gets ready to leave Paul's mind. If he can hold on a little longer, Ian can catch the black magician that did this. That's when Paul grabs a hold of our protagonist's arm, stopping him. Ian tries to tell him that he can fix everything now. If he finds the person behind the black magic, he will be able to prove Paul's innocence. Paul doesn't want Ian putting himself in danger just for him though. Even if he does find this black magician, it won't prove anything. In the end, it was still Paul who poisoned the Emperor's wine. Ian tries to urge him not to give up. If he dies down here, he will be forever remembered as an assassin. However, Paul doesn't mind. He caused the Emperor a great deal of pain. Being remembered so terribly is a fitting punishment. No matter who this black magician is, if they are aiming for the Emperor, then they will most likely also be aiming for Prince Haydn. Paul tells Ian that he must stop this from happening. A smile appears on his face and he asks that Ian do one last thing for him. Tell Prince Haydn and Captain Oliver that he is sorry, and thank you. Ian is confused. All of this can be fixed if he just holds on a little longer. He begins to walk up to the projection of Paul, but the vice captain pushes him away. He is now leaving the safety of Prince Haydn in his hands. Ian stumbles backwards, and his vision of Paul slowly fades as he exits his memories. He finds himself back in the prison cell, staring right at Paul, but he is no longer moving. Waving his hands around, Ian desperately tries to dispel the vice captain of any black magic that may still be present, but nothing happens. Ian panics, yelling at Paul to hang on a little longer. He's not going to let him die so easily. Unfortunately, it seems like it is too late though. There is no movement from the prisoner and certainly no sound. Ian looks at the ground trying to process what just happened. Meanwhile, Oliver is sitting at his place listening to the sounds of a crackling fire and the raindrops pounding against the roof. These sounds are disturbed by someone coming to the door and Oliver immediately reaches for his sword. There is no need for it though, as it is just Ian. Oliver opens the door so he can come inside. Ian seems visibly distressed. His tears are camouflaged by the heavy rain and his stare is vacant. Sir Paul Lance, vice captain of the 2nd Imperial Knights, has passed away while in prison. The Sword Lord is heartbroken upon hearing this, barely able to form a coherent sentence, let alone believe what he is hearing. He stumbles backwards in shock, until he reaches a table that he can lean on to process this information. He first met Paul at a nursery supported by the Reedwood family in the northern border. He was always so cheerful and smiley, caring more about others than himself. Oliver's father discovered his talent for swordsmanship and decided to sponsor him. Since then Oliver and Paul grew up like brothers, together with their swords. He was a righteous man and worked harder than everyone else. For him to die like this is unfair. Ian begins to explain what he saw inside the vice captain's memories. He went to visit Damphel, the commander of the Royal Knights, a few days ago. There was someone with Damphel who brainwashed Paul using black magic. Ian has never seen him before. He's a man with a pale face and long silver hair. It's someone that he doesn't even recognize from his past life. So Damphel is definitely involved in this, along with an unidentified high-ranking magician. Oliver wonders how strong this guy is. When Paul realized he was being attacked by dark magic, he tried to stop it immediately, but it didn't work. That means this magician is of an even higher class than Ian. He has a feeling of who the person might be, but he isn't sure. And the number of dark magicians who are cooperating with them is also unknown. A more thorough investigation is needed. Oliver doesn't like the sound of this. If this magician is stronger than Ian, then it is dangerous. What if Ian gets caught under the influence of black magic? The Empire will bathe in blood. Ian reaches into his pocket and pulls out the necklace that Oliver gave him many years ago. He gave it so Ian would train with him. It originally belonged to the former Empress, and the magic inside is said to keep one's head clear, but it isn't that simple. A very rare jewel made with dragon's tear is studded inside the pendant. Thanks to that, this necklace has an anti-magic spell that can absorb dark magic. Oliver is relieved to hear this. With the necklace, he should be safe from getting caught under anyone's spell. The two continue their conversation inside of Oliver's house, although it is unclear what they are saying. It seems to be important though, as Oliver has a look of fear and disbelief. Whatever words are coming out of their mouths are drowned out by the storm roaring outside. This storm pounds down onto the Imperial Palace. Meanwhile, Prince Ragnar is sitting inside his room and is greeted by Damphel, who informs him that Paul has passed away inside his cell. However, a rat had come into his cell. If it was Ian, then he must have noticed that Paul was under the influence of black magic. Ragnar believes it was him, though he won't be able to do anything about it. Ian still hasn't noticed the existence of the dragon Ian Avantis, and he is probably too preoccupied with trying not to get caught in black magic. Herbert's 5th class magic was no match for Ian, who was 6th class, but Avantis is a much higher class than that. If he was human, he would probably be an 8th class master. His powers have not fully recovered because of the seal, but he is still stronger than Ian Page. Ian must at least recognize that he isn't the strongest magician around, so Ragnar isn't worried. Damphel assumes that our protagonist will just leave everything and run away. Ragnar laughs at this comment. He wouldn't do that. If he was that dumb, he wouldn't be giving them such a hard time. Actually, he doesn't have a clue what Ian is thinking. Since he entered the palace 6 years ago, he has become Prince Haydn's close companion. However, Ragnar remembers not long ago when Ian told him he does not serve Prince Haydn. Ragnar has been hiding it, but sometimes it feels as though Ian is looking right through him. It's almost as if he has known him for a long time, and he knows more about Ragnar than even he knows of himself. Prince Ragnar scratches his chin. It would be best if they just observe Ian for now, that way they can see how he is going to react. It's a new day and the sky has cleared, though the situation hasn't improved in the slightest, and Ian is preparing for the worst. He has sent a letter to Lord Marcus of the Mogrian territory and has a second letter that needs to be sent to Lord Cullion of the Pyrrhic estate. It's time they honored their 1,000-year pacts. Ian's butler informs him that he has sent a trusted deliverman to take the letter to Lord Marcus, and he will send the letter to Lord Cullion as soon as possible. Ian hands him a piece of paper. It's a gate pass that has been issued under the name of the Merchant Guild. Using this, the butler can pretend to be a merchant and leave the capital. Ian orders him to pack the rest of the luggage and leave when the sun begins to set. He should take all of the mansion's servants along with his mother and head for the Mogrian territory in the north. The butler understands his orders and will do just that. Someone bursts into the room calling out Ian's name. It's his mother, who wants to know what's going on. Why are they leaving all of a sudden? Ian can't tell her the exact details, but the capital is in danger. He's already sent a letter to Lord Marcus and he will help to keep her safe. However, Vanessa doesn't want to leave her son behind. If he is going to stay here, then she wants to stay here too. She shouldn't worry. Ian assures her he is all grown up now. Besides, he is a magician that can easily protect himself. He might be 18 years old, but he is still Vanessa's only little son. She hates that he is always involving himself in dangerous work. She can't stand watching him put himself in danger. Ian gets frustrated and yells out at her to get her to stop talking for a second. He's begging her to just listen to him this once. If he does something wrong, it could put Vanessa in danger, and he doesn't want that. He turns to the alchemist Letio. He is leaving his mother in his hands. He trusts him to take her to a safe location and to never reveal that place to anyone. When the time comes, he will send a letter through Lord Marcus. Letio understands his orders and the role he must play. That's when his son Douglas speaks up. He would like to stay in the capital with Ian. Perhaps he could be of help. Ian is grateful for the offer, but it is much more dangerous than Douglas realizes. It would be better if he went with his father. Ian is going to use his magic to erase a few of his memories after everyone has left. This way even he won't know where they have all gone. This is the only way he can ensure their safety while black magic is about. Ian's family are pushed out of the mansion by the maids and servants. Vanessa gets one last look at her son before departing. They leave him there all alone as he prepares for whatever is going to come next. On his desk next to him is the necklace that can absorb dark magic, and in his pocket is a pink elixir in a glass bottle. These are both going to play a crucial role in his plan. The scene cuts to Prince Ragnar, and an informant is telling him about the Emperor's condition. His body is weak, but he is no longer in a critical condition due to healing medicine. Though he has regained consciousness, it seems that even if he were to wake up, his insides are already in a poor state, and he will suffer from after effects. Ragnar is surprised to hear he has been hanging on this long. It will be troublesome if his father's condition improves. Damphel offers to call the palace's alchemist, then just in case, it's best to prepare for the worst. Things are going well. Public opinion on Prince Haydn is apathetic. The second palace knights are all on probation as they are being inspected, and the parliament is currently discussing whether the head of the knights, the sword lord Oliver, should be stripped of his title. Avantis sits on a nearby chair, explaining that everything is going smoothly. All they need to do is wait patiently and Ragnar will be sitting on the throne in no time. Ragnar agrees, but he finds it suspicious that Ian isn't doing anything. There is no way he would just watch this whole situation quietly. At this moment, someone in a red cloak enters the room in a hurry, angering everyone inside who asked for privacy. The guy in the red cloak is sorry, but he needed to inform them that Ian is currently approaching the palace. Due to this, Ragnar thinks it would be best if they end this meeting here for today. He asks that Avantis hide himself, but that he remains in the room to listen in on the conversation. Avantis understands. As they are talking, Ian approaches Prince Ragnar's door. They are long overdue a conversation. He enters the room and Ragnar explains how it has been a while. The last time they spoke was after Herbert's execution. There has been a lot of unfortunate things that have happened since then. Ragnar still can't believe such a thing happened to his father. He can't even meet him when he is in such a state. It's torture, so why, at a time like this, has Ian come to speak to him? He's here to find out what Ragnar is up to. He knows Paul was under the influence of black magic and that it has something to do with Damphel. He is also pretty certain that the Dragon Order is somehow involved in all of this. Ian confronts Prince Ragnar, claiming that everything that has happened is all part of his plan to become the new emperor. Ragnar acts like he hasn't got a clue what our protagonist is talking about. This is all just slander. After all, if Paul was under the influence of black magic when he tried to kill the emperor, then isn't that Ian's fault, since Ian was the one responsible for investigating the black magic in the first place. And as for the Dragon Order, Ragnar has never even heard of them. How can he conspire with a group whose existence he isn't even aware of? Besides, he has been trapped inside his room all this time, being watched closely. He hasn't even been able to step foot out of the imperial palace. Ian watches the prince closely as he spouts his lies. Eventually, he looks up, revealing that he has been using interrogation magic to detect for lies. He knows that everything Ragnar just said wasn't the truth. He really is in contact with the Dragon Order and has entered a pact with some kind of black magic user. Ragnar crosses his arms. Is that really the conclusion Ian has reached? He's more stupid than Ragnar thought. There is nothing Ian can do. Ragnar isn't going to confess to anything and isn't intimidated in the slightest. There is no evidence against him. Vice Captain Paul died because he tried to poison the Emperor. There are no lies in that statement, and even with magic Ian can't prove otherwise. But even so, Ian still came all the way over here making accusations. Ragnar calls him a fool. This is when Avantis reveals himself. He finds Ian interesting. The fact that he was able to figure everything out like that. Ian turns around, recognizing Avantis from Paul's memories, but it is too late. The black magic has got a hold of him and strangles his body. Avantis approaches. He recognizes the robe that our protagonist is wearing. It belonged to the famous magician Mitchell Greenriver, who he fought against 300 years ago. To think he would see it again. Ragnar speaks up. He wants Ian kept alive and would like to use him as his pawn. Avantis understands and snaps his fingers, causing the black magic to strangle Ian tighter. He struggles through the pain. Eventually the process stops and the pain subsides. Ian has a vacant expression and a motionless body. The prince looks over, wondering if it is finished. He doesn't look any different. Evantis tells the prince not to doubt him. He looks at Ian directly, ordering him to self-delete. Our protagonist follows his orders like a puppet, summoning a sharp ice crystal out of nowhere and aiming straight for his neck. At the last second, Ragnar yells out for him to stop. That's enough. He is sorry he doubted the Dragonian's power. He yelled stop at just the right time. Any longer and Ian would have been pierced like a kebab. Evantis leaves the room. Ian is now the prince's to control and do with as he pleases. Now the Dragonian is going to take a rest. He vanishes from the room in a cloud of black mist, leaving our protagonist and the prince alone together. Ragnar turns to Ian to test if the magic worked. He asks him which monarch does he truly serve. Falling to his knees, Ian reveals that he serves the fifth prince, Ragnar Greenriver, the person who will rise to the top of this empire. A sinister look appears on the prince's face.